lost jobs, lost my house, I lost my car. I mean, I lost everything. I could blame the economy, but the reality was I didn't understand business. It was just taking action and believing in the idea that you could do something. Major goal I had was get more reviews than everybody else. Pick a number, set a deadline, and go to work. And I just picked 100 million.
A few months ago, we got our call center on Avoca. And Avoca is a AI call center solution for home service companies just like me, and probably just like you. They have a couple different products, but the one that we like the most is their coach product, which listens to every single phone call and runs it through a rubric to help our call takers improve. And this is a really big deal because we take hundreds, sometimes thousands of phone calls every single day, and it's just too much for our trainers and managers and leads to keep up with and effectively train. So it lets us do ride-alongs on almost every single call every day. Click on the link below to go to Avoca and make sure you use the promo code OWNED for a special discount. Welcome back to Owned and Operated. Today we've got a special guest on, a new addition to our Legend series. Welcome Aaron Gaynor from Eco Plumbers.
Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, dude, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Very excited.
Yeah. This is also fun because we're Ohio brothers. Like we get
you've been doing great stuff up north, man. So
we're trying. We want to get there's only a couple like big Ohio companies. I think you guys are the biggest that I know, but we got to get Logan on at some point too. That'd be kind of fun, but it's fun to the Midwest companies, man. Midwest companies. Well, before we start diving in, I'm sure most of the folks in the industry know who you are, but I'd love a little bit of a backstory on Eco because you guys have had some wild success.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've been fortunate enough to be on a decent amount of podcasts, been around the industry for a while, and I'm really grateful to have a lot of people help me and getting the opportunity to share some of my story that hopefully helps other people. But I am a plumber by trade. I'll start all the way back to I started in the trades in 1997 out of high school. I am a plumber by trade. I was loading semi trucks at Value City Furniture for you Midwest people that know Value City Furniture.
Yeah.
At night, second shift throughout my senior year of high school. Graduated high school, had a buddy. His brother-in-law worked for Ferguson Enterprises, and he said, "Hey, I know somebody that wants to get some young guys into plumbing, into the trades, right?" I had really no clue what plumbers were really doing. I mean, I knew what plumbing was, but I didn't really know what they did, what was going on. So I took that job. It was a first shift job, making about $7.50 an hour as a helper, right? And can you imagine that? You can't even get a plumber to start for $7. But I took it, and I started as a helper, and I never left. I ended up really enjoying it. It was new construction, light commercial. I picked up on the code pretty quickly. I understood the work. I liked the physical work too. I like digging, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And I like the undergrounds. I did undergrounds for a couple of years. So I learned the trade, and then I ended up getting my master's, called it Master's Plumber's License here in Ohio back in the day, around the age of 23 or so. My buddy and I started a plumbing company, new construction in the early 2000s when everything was really booming.
Yeah.
It was one of those times where it felt like they were going to build houses forever and ever. We grew that business to about $3.5 million. And then 06 to 07, we ended up losing that company in the downturn, went bankrupt. That company ended up going bankrupt. We were main businesses were some builders like Syntex Homes, Dominion Homes, some other builders, MI, some other people that are still around, but they started pulling back. We started losing contracts. And frankly, we tried to fight to try to hold on to that business, but we're really sure how to, because we were very dependent on new build construction. And I'll get into it maybe a little bit as we talk here today. I didn't really understand how to run a business. We were just contractors doing a lot of plumbing work for new construction and then billing that, right? Yeah. And as we started to lose that business, we didn't really have a fallback or plan. So lost that business in 06 to 07. In 07, had bankruptcy, lost jobs, lost my house. I lost my car. I mean, I lost everything. I mean, I just complete bankruptcy to zero, ground zero. I was actually even on check systems. If anybody's ever heard of that, where basically it won't even give you a bank account because you owed money
Oh,
uh,
interesting.
out to the IRS
Yeah.
too. So like all of that happened. So now here I am, 28 years old, single dad with my 3-year-old son, and I'm at my mom's house at her 2-bedroom apartment, sleeping on the couch. And I laying there one night with my son on the couch, and I hold him up, and I just remember looking right at him, and I say, "I
Hmm.
promise this won't be your life.
Hmm.
I'm gonna figure this out, man. I'm gonna get to work, and we'll make something." And next day, got up and got to work. And 17 years later, we're going on this is the end of 17 years.
Hmm.
We could finish off around $75 million, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Congrats.
amazing.
That's an absolutely amazing story. To go
Yeah.
and then lose it all and then come back is just absolutely incredible. And so what was the big decision when you said getting back to work? Did you go work for another plumber? Did you just start up another company right out the gate? And then how did you move from that into service work?
So, answer the question here this way. One is I didn't end up going to work for anybody else. Obviously, that crossed my mind. Good plumber, had a lot of background. I could have done that.
Mhm.
I just felt internally there was still, I don't really had this question asked before. It's like, I don't really know what it was. Just something told me I could still do this,
Hmm.
and that I wanted to pursue something that was bigger and better than just, I'm not saying better than working for somebody, but for myself, my own ambition, right?
Mhm.
Is what I wanted to pursue. So there was some fire that I can't really answer that, it just was there. It's like one of those things you just knew that you could do more. And I wasn't done fighting for that yet. So that was one of the things, just got up and was like, I know I can do this. I know that this industry has a lot of opportunity. The trades have really helped me out in my life. Made some mistakes. I didn't really understand business. Once I reflected on, said, I could blame the economy, but the reality was I didn't understand business. I didn't know business enough. I didn't know marketing. I didn't know finance. I didn't know any of that. All I knew was to run plumbing projects and bid jobs for plumbing, right? That's really what I knew. So I had to take full responsibility. Once I took full responsibility, I knew that there was another whole opportunity in the service industry that I had never tapped into as I started to do some research. So,
Yeah.
but to answer your question, I woke up that next day. I called pretty much the next day I woke up, called my sister, asked her if she'd help me get something started. What I just shared with you is pretty much what I said to her. I know there's an opportunity. I know I can do something. We borrowed $50 from her, opened up a bank account, and then her and her ex-husband now, but at that time really helped me get up off the ground. I called up my buddy, Braun, who still works here today, that I've also known since we were 15 years old and worked at the other company. We said, hey man, I'm going to try to get this going again. Will you help me out? He said, yes. I called up some old builders that I had some relationships with and said, hey, can I do some work for you guys? You know what happened. They do what happened, right? I said, but I'll warranty the work after hours that, from my previous company I was a part of, on my own time, whenever you need it. If you guys can give me some work to get up off my feet again. And I had a good relationship with a lot of the builders, custom builders that I did work for. They didn't really have a problem with anything you did. Just the production business just collapsed, right? And they still had some work. So, and I didn't need to, I wasn't required to do that work. Obviously, after a bankruptcy, it kind of goes away. But it was the right thing to do to get the work, right? And it showed integrity to them. So they gave me some work, and then I called my son's mom up and said, "Hey, this is where I'm at. Financially, I don't have any work. You know this already. I'm trying to survive." I called child support and asked them if I could get a child support reduction. They basically told me, "Too bad. You need 3 years of new employment history to be able to change child support." I said, "Well, I mean, I'm unemployed. I have no job. I'm bankrupt." They basically, told me, "Good luck." So I called her up. And I said, "Hey, this is where I'm at. I'll make a deal with you. I'm going to figure out how to pay child support so nothing goes off. I'm a little behind right now, but I'll get caught up. I'll figure it out. I'm going to get some work. I'll get it paid as long as we can make an agreement that you never come back after me again later on. But I'll make you a deal. I'll make sure I buy our son's first truck, our first vehicle when he turns 16, and I'll pay for all of his college," which I am happy to say I'm doing today. So I was able to buy his vehicle, take care of him, and I'm paying. He's going to ASU for finance. He's in his senior year, and I'm paying for all of that. And she believed in me, and she said, "Yeah, sure." And I'd known her since we were younger. We knew each other younger. We didn't date until later. But she's like, "Sure, let's do it." And she never did. She held her word. She never came back for anything ever again. Never did. And I fulfilled my promise. So those pieces kind of laid in. You went and asked people for some help, and you got to work, and it's action. So think to your point, what big decisions? It was just taking action and believing in the idea that you could do something. So
Yeah.
it was actions, immediate actions. Of course, I felt down. I felt like a loser, and I felt like an absolute loser. But I also knew that if I didn't do something, I'd be a bigger loser. And it was like, and I wanted to, and I promised my son that this wouldn't be the life he'd have, and I'm going to get to work and figure it out. And, getting back out into the workforce and the community and around the people that you just had a business that went bankrupt, is embarrassing. I mean, it was embarrassing, but I also knew that I could show that I could get back on my feet and do something.
Yeah. When you, for the listener, a little bit of extra nuances, Columbus has been in, I don't know when the new construction sort of boom happened again, but it's in a new construction boom again, seemingly from the outside looking in for the last decade. So when you started working again, was most of the work still this new stuff, or when did you start breaking into service and that become the primary thing?
So it was definitely construction. Now it sounds like, well, that just would cost you your business, but it's also the only thing I knew, right?
Yeah.
I knew how to do construction. I knew how to do that, but that wasn't the plan anymore. The plan was to build a service business. I'd watch, Roto-Rooter and, service trucks, other companies, I could name a few of them, but regardless, you all know, like there's decent service companies in Columbus, and I saw them driving around. They were doing work. Yeah. They seemed to be fine during the economy, during the stuff. I was like, that's what I want to do. They had a brand. And I was like, I want to build a brand. Yeah. I need to build a brand. I need to build something that has value for me, for the people that work here, and for the community, right? So that was my goal. So I knew from that point forward, everything I was doing was to build a service brand. Mm-hmm. And part of that was getting to work in what I knew to start to create money, because I was bankrupt and I had no credit, to be able to start building towards building a brand, and then thinking about that. And then I got online and I found an organization called Green Plumbers out of Australia, and they were doing stuff for droughts and water conservation. I was like, this is pretty cool. This is new. This is innovative in our space. I was trying to find new innovative things, and I signed up with them and said, hey, when you guys are coming, and then randomly they're like, hey, we'll be in the States in like next 12 months or something. I can't remember exactly, but somewhere in that time frame to do training. I was like, sign me up. So I was like one of the 26 people, or first 26 people to go through that training that they had back then, and learned a lot about energy, water conservation, water sense, solar systems, tankless, all these things that were really becoming popular around 08, 09, 2010, right?
Yeah.
So that was a great play. Just when I say play, was looking for innovation in the space that I could do in plumbing that wasn't existing, to help me build a service business. Mm-hmm. And that's what I went out and looked for. And I found that and started to integrate that in, and then eventually renamed the company to Eco Plumbers at that time. Originally, when we restarted, it was called Phoenix, for all the reasons of Phoenix. Right? Yeah. real creative.
Yeah, right.
But I needed a name to get started, right? And that was a name to inspire me. And then it became Eco Plumbers, as I really looked to say, what would be something if I looked in 20 years from now that could be a brand name in the marketplace that's different than Roto or Rooter or whatever. And no hit at that. It's just thinking about what the industry would evolve to. And when I saw this energy conservation and new technology for plumbing, I was like, that's what we need to do. We need to be Eco Plumbers, right? Yeah. And that's what happened.
It makes sense. I mean, we've never, I'd never directly competed against you, obviously, but I remember hearing of your brand for the first time. It was probably about a decade ago. Maybe it was like Service Titan was just coming out. I don't really remember how, but it came up.
We were on Service Titan 10 years ago. Yep.
Yeah. I remember it was about a decade ago. And I remember seeing Eco Plumbers, and like, I think the focus at the time was like everything you just said. I remember that being a thing a decade ago for you guys. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
It's a good thesis. Definitely. It turned out to be true.
Because one, people are thinking about it, but two, it's prominently placing yourself at the forefront of, modern high ticket plumbing. So yeah, it makes sense. It was a good idea.
That's what we did. So the idea was like, okay, well, water sense hadn't been pushed through yet through the government as a mandate, right? So we're offering water sense. Tankless was building that. A lot of plumbers were scared of tankless, didn't want anything to do with it. I was like, just give them to me, I'll do them. Yeah. Figure it out. And and no, scared is my word, but maybe just not feeling that they wanted to be involved or do it, but maybe scared.
Yeah. People don't like change. I mean, it's the same thing with like mini splits, and it's the same thing with ProPress, and it's, I mean, lead-free valves. I remember when that was a thing 15 years ago. Everything, man.
Everything, right? Change is always
refrigerations. It's always
but I was like, I'm going all in on it. And then from there, I was like, well, what? I went and was like, I need some type of software that could really be advanced. And so I started looking around, and I found Service Titan just online. I reached out, and Ara actually called me back, and he's the one that actually was my sales rep. You guys know who Ara is. I did it. He was my sales rep, and he called me on a Sunday night. I think it was like 7:00. He did like a present on like, I guess what you would maybe call Zoom today, some other platform. I don't even know what it was 10 years ago. And he walked me through it, and I was like, I'm signing up now, like tomorrow, like I'm in, like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So all of those things kind of found the right time. And then when iPads came out, I was like, I need to get iPads to be able to show this. And that was even before Service Titan. But iPads, I remember people would be like, my plumber has an iPad and I don't. This is crazy, right? And so just all of those things, I think were, some was the right time at the right place, and you kind of make those decisions, and we did, and they worked out for us, right? And they could have maybe never worked out. I don't know, but they did.
This is probably a tactical question, and it was, 15, 17 years ago at this point. I'm imagining that vendors would have been a struggle coming back in and relaunching the company. Like, how did you actually do that?
Yeah, well, for sure. So obviously I had my sister help me out with some credit stuff, and her ex-husband. But honestly, Car Supply, the old owner of Car Supply before they sold Bud, he knew me, and he and Rick, a vendor that worked with me through my other plumbing company, that were there. And that's what Car Supply is. I don't know if you guys know, you might know who Car Supply is, but he was great to me. He was just genuinely nice guy, and he helped me out. I don't know what else to really say. He gave me credit, and I'd come back and count fittings and bring them back. And he didn't like give me a lot, but he gave me enough, right? And he helped me out, and he let me bring fittings back every night. I'd be counting fittings back out and returning them to get credit, so I had enough to buy for the next job. And he was okay with it, even though it wasn't something they typically did. But he knew what happened, and his business actually lost money in that bankruptcy because of that too. But he knew what happened, and I think he saw the work ethic I had and the ability to try to bounce back. And we spent a lot of money with that company today. Now he sold that company, has moved on, and Win Supply did it. But Rick, who's been there, and some other people, and just that relationship at times, it's I think they've made that money back plus some.
Yeah,
just a little.
But he didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
he didn't
definitely
have to, and he did.
So
we bought a company in 2018, and they had a similar story to what you just described, and they didn't bounce back really. They tried to, but they weren't able to. But a lot of it was humbling because I was young when I was hearing these stories, but it was shocking the difference between vendor relationships. Where like, that's a great story. That's a vendor partner that has paid off, 1,000 times over for that vendor. And then there's other vendors that just didn't do that. And like, we have a vendor up here they were pretty tough about the whole thing with the company we bought. And that vendor actually ended up forcing the plumbing company into bankruptcy. Like, they missed a couple bills, and the vendor pulled all the vans. It was so they actually effectively shut that business down. And I was like, that's wild. Like, how do you win in this scenario? You got some vans, like you got some old Chevys. Like, I don't know. Well,
that happened to us. Actually, part of the reason we ended up getting enforced in bankruptcy was because of some of the vendors, and a large vendor did it. We'll get into it. But they were one of the reasons why they were able to pull that lever, which was the personal rights and write-off things on, pull that lever and shut it. Now, the reason why is because eventually they have to, because they need to put it on the books and then clear their books, right? So there's many reasons why. It doesn't feel like the right thing to do in some sense, but it is the right thing to do, the way some of the system, once you start to understand why and how. But, you hope that people bet on you trying to give you, to fight back. But also there's times where people take advantage of and totally run people into dirt. So, I can't judge anybody for the decisions they made, because they made the decisions they felt were the right ones for them. And, honestly, I probably should be thanking them at some point that this happened and it went down. And I do. I do. At one point, I felt like bankruptcy was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it might have been one of the best things. Actually, it probably is one of the best things that ever happened to me because it really humbled me and really made me rethink everything I thought about plumbing and HVAC and electrical and myself and reinvent myself and rethink how I operate and show up and the things I needed to learn as a person. Because I was just a plumber, right? Really, I was just a plumber running a business. Nothing wrong with that. I think everybody should feel proud to be whatever trade they are. I'm just saying, I was a plumber. I wasn't really understanding how to operate a business. You know, the old E-Myth book, if you guys have read E-Myth, right? So very much technician, manager, the entrepreneurial myth, right? But really was just technician trying to run a business and didn't really know what I was doing.
Aaron, with that, you talk a lot about your history as a plumber and that growth trajectory. At what point did it make sense in your business to add those additional verticals, right? You went from, I'm a plumber, it's what I know service now, my business is growing, and now we're going to do HVAC and electrical. What did that transition look like for you?
You know, for the longest time, I was like, man, I see these guys trying to do multiple trades way too early in this business and floundering, but it sounded cool that I had all three trades, to be candid, right? And I saw them, and I talked to guys who are like, we're doing 5 million, they're all three trades. I'm like, what? Just pick one. Like,
no, dude,
pick one.
Really. We have that conversation a lot.
3 of them, you're all over the place, and you're not really sure, and you're not really winning at one of them, and they're dragging you down. So to me, and I could see that when I was growing the business, and I remember, you know, I was very fortunate. I joined Nexstar. Jack Tester, Jack Tester's on our team today. Was a mentor of mine. Jim Hamilton, one of the legends in home service coaching and Nexstar. And, you know, I really got a chance to talk to him more. And I was like, I just want to figure this one thing out first, right? Because I dabbled around and before and tried to mess around with like doing these other things. And finally I said, I just have to pick one thing and do it. Just one thing and give it all. And it was plumbing, right? Plumbing and drain kind of came along. And then, so I was like, I'm just going to do this one thing. I'm not going to worry about multi-trade, because I go to these seminars or go to these events or go to the things and talk to guys doing it. They just seemed, they weren't getting anywhere because they couldn't get traction on it because they're trying to do all of them because they felt like they should. And there's some ego. It felt cool, right? Honestly, let's just say what it is. It just felt cool. I felt like what really seemed cool was a good plumbing business at first, right? So it was like, and then I didn't feel like I had earned, I used to say this all the time, even when we did our very first prayer group back when we were around $12 million. I told this, when people brought it up again, I said, I don't think I've earned the right to do another trade line yet. I haven't earned the right to do it. We haven't earned the right till we have mastered this in some capacity. You'll never master it, but you know what I mean? Like within mastery of it.
Yeah, definitely.
We've earned market saturation. We're to a point where we feel like we're the best in the market of Central Ohio, Columbus, and we do more plumbing than anybody else. Then we've earned the right to add in multi-trades. Right. So, and that was my approach. I don't judge anybody for their own. They do whatever they want. I'm just sharing my experience. So, and then from there, once we started feeling like we were hitting saturation in the plumbing business and the lead counts were starting to level out and the drain business was leveling out, it's like, now what do you do? So then we expanded into Dayton, Ohio with plumbing only, because that was our line. And then we did exactly the thing that I said that made you look cool, was that then we decided to do that thing. Which then we added HVAC, then we added electrical, and then we went vertical and horizontal because, to be frank, we got kind of caught up in the arrogance of ourselves and the industry of grow, market expansion, add to service lines. Everybody's doing it. It's so trendy. You want to be cool like everybody else, so you should do it. And we did it. And, we did it. Some of that, I would say, played into it a little bit as you're watching, people do it in the marketplace and do stuff. And then some of it was realistically, hey, we need to add more service line. You start thinking about how do you grow your business? Well, it's either vertical or horizontal growth, right? You got to pick one or pick both. and so we kind of picked both there for a minute, right? And some challenges. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's not all. It's it might look from the outside like, oh, look at Eco's pretty big business. Their brand's big. They do a lot of revenue, but I mean, there's a lot of challenges in that. But the one thing is we felt that we wanted to bring our plumbing service experience to the HVAC industry. We felt like we had grown a giant plumbing business base, and we felt like because of our plumbing demand call business, we should be able to scale the HVAC business pretty quickly because we see so many people, right, already. And we started to look at saturation, look at average sale of HVAC, and then look for longevity of membership growth and what does this mean as a brand and as a business. proposition for our own employees, growth opportunity, and market value. So hopefully, I mean, I might have said a lot there, but hopefully there's answered some of it. And honestly, electrical was a last second decision. We were actually into rebrand with Dan Antonelli. We were going to do only plumbing and HVAC. And then we were at the Nexstar event right before they were getting ready to pass the new energy laws for electrical. I talked to a couple of electricians that own electrical businesses, and they were going on about how great this is going to be, the electrical with the HVAC, how electrical is going to have a lot of growth opportunity in the next decade because of some of the energy laws that are being passed and some of the, I don't know, they went into other technical things that I'm not an electrician about. And I was like, Mike and my partner, Mike, who's a partner now in the business, my CFO, Mike, is a partner in business now. We both were sitting there, and I just said, we just looked at each other and said, they sold us. We got to do it. If we're going to do it, we have to do it now. So I literally picked up the phone, called my marketing team, said, we're going to do electrical, make sure it gets on the logo because the logo is supposed to be redone and ready to go in a couple of weeks. So add electrical, let's just do it. If we're going to do it, let's just do them all, call it a day. That one was not very thought out. But so not all decisions are always as strategic as everybody thinks they are in life, right? Some are, you got to just make a decision and go with it. And frankly, it's been a very good decision to do electrical. We have more electrical calls than we can even run in a week.
I bet. Yeah, I mean, I love that answer, though. We get the question all the time from people in our group and that write us from the newsletter that say, hey, when do we do this? And even myself has fallen into the trap of running plumbing and HVAC at a too low of a level. And it becomes more of a burden, we found, in the long run, just because you're running two separate businesses under one brand name when you don't have the capital to actually really own the market in one or the other. So very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I love that you need to earn the right to get a second vertical, but really, really interesting.
Yeah. And that was my approach. And I'd heard that through some of my Nexstar coaches, but it was also my own approach to keep it off from myself and from my team to say, we haven't earned the right. You tell me once we earn the right, then we can get a vertical.
Taking this back maybe a few years, can you walk us through, I don't know if it helps year by year or how you want to think about this, but I mean, bankruptcy to 75 million is obviously, that's a big leap. Can you walk us through some of the steps there? For going on 2 years, I've partnered with Service Scalers to do our Google Ads, PPC, and SEO, and the results have been huge. It's been really exciting to watch as our website consistently jumps up rank as we're using more technology and we're moving faster than our peers who are all using legacy home service marketing companies. We use Service Scalers for PPC, our local SEO, our on-page website SEO, and our LSA. So give them a call if you're looking for leads.
Let's call it first 7 years were basically nothing. Like it was just trying to actually just grind. I mean, we weren't making money. We didn't have money to advertise. I was putting every dollar I could in the bank account, trying to build up capital, trying to get back, bankruptcy stays under credit for 7 years, right? So I had some time to try to figure out some of that. We're still growing, we're doing stuff, but we weren't doing anything significant there. Still trying to figure out, how do I build a brand strategy? What does it look like? Joining, end up, finding all these things. So the first 7 years is basically, it was just every day, sun up to sundown, just still working in the field, doing anything. If I got a random service call, I'd go do it, right? Slowly, surely. I didn't understand pricing. So one of the ways that I did to figure out even how to build a price book, because I didn't have any money to go find an organization to teach me a price book. So Angie's List was big in our area years and years ago. And Angie's List still exists, but it was pretty big, right? It was probably the real first platform for reviews before Google kind of took that over.
Yeah.
I got on Angie's List and I signed up for Angie's List and I read through all the reviews on Angie's List and the price that any person said was the price they paid for a water heater, a drain call.
Oh, interesting.
And I wrote them all down. I'm not savvy enough for an Excel sheet. So I wrote them all down and then I went through them all and I said, okay, this is how much people are saying they're buying from this company, this company, this company. And I started building my price book off of what consumers said in there. Then I obviously went back and looked at my prices and built it from there. Then I signed up for Angie's List. Angie's List was my first actual marketing platform besides having just a website. And I signed up for Angie's List, which, at that time was like, it's free to be on Angie's List. Now it costs $15,000. So it's like, it's free to have your name somewhere, but nobody will see you. So I was like, I don't have any money. But they're like, guess what? We'll finance you.
Oh, interesting.
Independently financed, right? So basically they said it's 15 grand. We'll let you pay payments on it. And I said, you know what? Screw it. Let's do it. So that's where I started off at, is on Angie's List. And the major goal I had was get more reviews than everybody else on Angie's List. That's what I told the 5 people on our team. We had wrapped our trucks with the Eco Plumbers. So people thought we were kind of a franchise. They're like, you guys a franchise? Like, no, there's like 4 of us trying to make it happen. And all we did was get reviews. I said, get reviews, get reviews, get reviews, get reviews. I said, I don't care what we do the job for at this price, at some point to the price a little bit. Get reviews, get reviews. We want to look bigger than we are, and we want to get social validation. I said, so social validation will be our play to build our brand. Get more people to think think we're bigger than we are, and that we have the most reviews. And we did that, and we started passing people on Angie's List within probably a year or 2 years, with more reviews, and people have been on it forever. And then we took that same approach into Google immediately when Google started driving us there. I said, get reviews, get reviews, get reviews. And that was before everybody was really, at least in my world, before everybody's like really focused on reviews.
Oh, yeah.
Today, our reviews on Google, there's only 3 places have more reviews than us in Ohio. You know who they are? I'll tell you. It's Cedar Point, Kings Island, and the Columbus Zoo.
That's funny, dude. I'm looking this up right now. Oh yeah, 13,000. That is chunky. That's a lot.
That's just in one location.
Yeah.
You start adding up all of our Google reviews between all of our locations.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. That was definitely it. And I know reviews. At some point, it doesn't matter if you have 13,000 or 5,000 reviews. But the idea was build social validation through the platforms of reviews, and that started with Angie's List, and then we carried it over to Google fast.
Yeah. You had.
So I guess I don't know if that answers your question. Talk through, but I'm saying that was how we started the service business. Was I went to Angie's List. I really put a platform on Angie's List, started driving reviews and driving more reviews, and then from there we obviously started digging into more marketing strategies, branding, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it did. It was helpful. Who was the big player a decade ago in Columbus?
So Waterworks was big. They're still decent size here. Waterworks was big here. Roto-Rooters here.
Is Atlas Butler Columbus?
Atlas Butler? Yeah, Atlas Butler's here. Yeah. Atlas Butler's big HVAC. Okay. They have a plumbing division, but they're HVAC. Yeah. They're a big HVAC business. Okay. So, I mean, big one was mostly Waterworks was the bigger plumbing business here, and Roto-Rooter. Yeah. And then there's a handful of other, companies, but those are really who we were, thinking about who we would beat, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think when did you cross that first 10 million or 20 million? Because it sounds like it was slow and then all at once from sort of what you've described so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it, right? I truly believe in the idea that the world really tests you if you really want it. Right? Yeah. The universe does in some level. It really tests you, right? Do you really want it? And once you kind of break through the idea that you're really done everything that there is, it's like it comes so fast that you're like, what happened? All this time it felt like there was nothing. And then all of a sudden it's everything, right? Yeah. And you're like, whoa. But it was all these things that we were doing to build up to that, right? And it takes time to build a brand. Like everybody thinks you're going to go out and flip the switch and have a brand in a marketplace. Everybody's going to know who you are. Like, you can run a lot of ads and get some marketing messaging ads, but it also takes time to get the reviews. It takes time for people to know, like, and trust you. It takes time. These things didn't happen overnight, right?
Yeah. Yeah, especially bootstrap too. I mean,
a lot of it was word of mouth beginning, right? Because I couldn't have any money to run a TV ad, right, or anything. Today we spend a lot of money on TV and radio and billboards, but so I guess I'd say the first 7 years were very much struggling. About 10 years ago, I met Mike, our CFO, now partner in the business, and we were at a party that neither one of us really wanted to be at, but we were chatting, and he was like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I'm a plumber. I own a plumbing business." He's like, I'm like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I just, I'm in finance." He just graduated with his master's in finance from Fisher. He's working at Victoria's Secret. And he's like, well, what? I was like, I want to learn more about finance and projections and other stuff, right? So we got into a little bit there. And then he's like, why? I said, well, I own a business and I want I want to grow it. And he's like, well, what do you want to grow it to? I was like, 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh, okay. He caught his attention, right? He's like, well, where are you at today? I was like, 1 million. Like, oh, okay. Okay, we got some work. But then he was like, let's get together and start building some modeling. And then we got together and built out $100 million plan to build a $100 million business. And then eventually he ended up coming on and now has become a partner in the business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's played a big part in that. So, that was a part of like knowing that I needed this. And sometimes fate finds its way. But the reason why I say this is you have to have something big out in front of you to get people on board with what you're doing. Vision. I think vision is very important in an organization. And I had vision. So even when I reset, I knew I was going to grow something. I had vision. And the vision was to grow a $100 million service business. I didn't even know $100 million service business even existed back then. Right?
Yeah.
And I know that's I don't know if I'll use the right word trendy, but it's kind of the trendy benchmark to use today, right?
Sure.
Get to 100 million. And that's fine because it's a hell of an achievement to get that, right? Building a $100 million business. Trust me, when I first joined Nexstar, it was like 20 million. If you got to 20 million, you were the king of the world.
Yeah.
But obviously business evolved, things have got bigger, acquisitions and goals. But when I first came up with 100 million, I'm driving around in my truck by myself. And it's one of those things that, just come to you. I don't know why. It's like, I need a goal. 100 million sounds big and bold, sounds ridiculous in some sense, but I think I just got done. I read Think and Grow Rich, greatest book ever in my life, changed my life. And then I also had listened to Good to Great and that big is goal. So they all kind of found their way together. And eventually Think and Grow Rich is really it. It's like pick a number, set a deadline and go to work. And I just picked 100 million because it felt like big number. So my point is like that has helped attract people to growing because they knew I'm going somewhere and wanting to build something. That helped bring that conversation because I had that goal. I had that conversation, which created that relationship, which he's here today. So that was a big movement for us. And then from there, we just started building plans, joining Service Titan, Nexstar, learning more about the industry and the business. And, then you started going, 1 million, 2 something, 3, 4, 5. And then it was like, and then finally it started jumping, don't hold me exactly to these numbers at the top of my head, but it's like, then it went to like 8, and then it was 12, and then 21, 33, 44, 60, 75.
Super inspirational. So I only got 5 years left of grinding before I hit that J curve.
Yeah, and it's like, but all the things you're doing, but that's fun, right? It's like, it feels like it, but it's a long time. And in the last 5 years, people have heard more about our business, but we've also, we've hit the curve, right? And it's gone. And we've made some good decisions, some bad decisions. And we put in the one thing I think that we did really well that wasn't happening right away, that found its way to us right around that 12 million to 22 is, COVID came, which obviously helped too. We grew big then. But right before then, we had put together a 3-year marketing plan. And we said, this is what we're going to do for 3 years. We're going to have our radio plan. We're going to have our TV plan, our billboard plan, our correct messaging for our brand. And we're going to plan and we're going to commit for 3 years to this plan. And the third year, 12 to 21 million.
That's that's a strong level of commitment. I don't know if we've talked about that on the show.
Well, we've talked about branding in general and when you should start and how much you should put in. And that's incredible.
I think the message here though is like the consistency and push. Cause I know what we notice, times get tight. So marketing, people want to cut, which like we've always had I always remember the day COVID shut down the world, I tripled my budget like that day. Like we were $2 million or $3 million or whatever, but it was like, okay. And we've consistently kept that, but I've never done a 3-year. I like that. That's like, everybody wants to cut and that's great.
Yeah. We went in the same thing, COVID, when everybody was pulling back, radio, TV, we're like, hey, someone gave free spots because we wouldn't cut and some of them were giving half off.
That's
awesome. We got crazy spots from radio. Yeah.
And then they're like, people are dropping billboards like, I'm buying them.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I was bankrupt once before. So I knew one thing was winter would come again. And I remember I went to a Tony Robbins event when, about at that time, it might've been about 7 years before. And he goes, winter will come. Something will happen. Always be in a position that you save enough cash to be able to be in a strong position when something happens, right? And you hear a lot of people use the word, dry powder today in the market today. But back then it was like, just have enough cash that when the storm hits, you can weather it, and then you're in a position to win, right?
Yeah.
So I never played in the small business because I learned a lesson bankrupt that I didn't use the company as my piggy bank. I used the company as the opportunity to build a business and a brand that I knew I wanted to. And when the storms hit, I had the cash to do something with it.
When you, I'd like to dive into the tactical of, you launched into Dayton. I think you're in Cincinnati as well now. So you guys are three markets. When did
and Chillicothe? We're 4 markets technically, but yeah.
Okay. Wait, where's Chillicothe? That's Tennessee.
Southern Ohio.
Southern Ohio. Okay.
It's a location that covers the whole Southern Ohio area.
Okay.
So
yeah, you don't want to move into Tennessee. It's terrible down here. We don't need any more big players.
A lot of good stuff going on down there, don't you? Nashville's got enough people, don't it? You don't need any more.
Yeah. Well, our last interview was Chris Hoffman for the Legend series, and it's funny because Chris and Jack directly compete in Nashville. So
yes,
it was a funny conversation.
Chris is an amazing guy.
He is, and I have a lot of respect for him, even though we compete regularly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think if you compete against guys you want to compete against, I think it's easy. Like Ohio's becoming kind of interesting because people are just starting to compete against each other. But like, as long as we're all priced well and as long as we're all doing good service, like that's a competitor that I would want to go against. I don't want to go against like one day I'm sure we'll run into each other. Right. And I know Chad, like I'm seeing Chad's ads up in Cleveland. I know you are too in Columbus. So like, but like he's a good competitor. It's the guys that are doing systems for like $2,000 bucks. Yeah. I'm like,
I know what Chad's going to do. He knows what we're going to do in a sense, right? Not like we're sharing everything, but we understand our brands. We understand what we want to do. We understand how we want to serve our people, where we're trying to stay in the marketplace. So, I mean, I agree. I think those things are great, right?
Yeah.
Learned a lot from Chad, and I imagine Chad's learned a lot from me, and I've been very blessed to have a relationship with Chad.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So when you went to go multi-market, when was the year? When was the first year Dayton? When did you drop Dayton?
4 years ago now. 4 years ago. This is the fourth year, I think. And we'll do about 15 million.
Okay.
Dayton now.
Yeah.
So that was a greenfield from zero to there.
Yeah.
2 years in Cincinnati now, and Cincinnati's finally getting up and growing.
Nice.
That was a struggle. That was a struggle going in greenfield. Very competitive market, lots of people, lots of established brands.
Yeah.
So we really had to hit that hard. We came into that market probably spending maybe about 1.5 million in marketing in a year.
Really?
From a greenfield, and did $1 million in revenue.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati does feel like a different.
But again, we knew that was going to be it because you had to start having enough voice and noise. If not, you got a long road to building, like, going in old school greenfield and just one call at a time. It takes time. It's a model, but you want to go in, and now we're 2 years in, and we just finished the second year. We've already done $2 million already in the market already, which I think we finished last month. So it's starting to build that momentum. And by year 3, we'll probably be doing, we'll project we'll probably be doing like 8 million next year due to the volume that's already picking up.
Yeah.
And the multi-trades and all the stuff that's happening. I know that sounds a big jump. We'll probably finish this year around 2.5, maybe 3, because it's been like, again, it was like this. And then the last few months has just been starting to build the volume and go, right?
Yeah.
And that's just hitting the market very hard from a market standpoint. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can go write a check for, $1 million something in advertising.
No, 100%.
To start up a greenfield, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of our conversation with Chris was, he was sort of describing what was next for Hoffman, and the episode will air soon. But it was our question for him was, okay, why are you buying a roofing company? Or why are you now looking to buy these other, like you greenfielded, I would say very successfully in Nashville. So why is this not the continued push? And it's like, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And it's a huge lift. Yeah, I've got a super healthy respect for. It takes a lot of work. And just like straight off of EBITDA of another branch, like that's $1.5 million advertise, not including the $1 million of infrastructure and people and whatever else went into that. That's straight off bottom line.
I'm talking straight marketing dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot.
Including the location, the truck, the material, the equipment, the people, all the stuff,
Yeah.
right, to build that up. And that's a different approach. It's again, hard, heavy hit, 3-year plan. It's going to take enough. You're going to need to invest. You're going to go into a market. You got a choice. You can go in slow and steady and build, which we did a little bit in Dayton. We still hit them with radio and TV and built up and picked it up quickly. Or you can come in and that one comes with risk too, because you spent a lot of money and you got to hold on, because there's a couple of times even in our team is like, should we pull this back? Should we stop? Should we?
Yeah.
A lot of money is money's on. It's like, we just got to hold on. We're already in. We're in this bar now. Hold on. Just hold on. It's just one of those things. Hold on.
Yeah. One of the things that I wonder, and you sort of said this in our phone call previously, but like Columbus is a big market. Like you could potentially have gotten to 100 in Columbus, and multi-location is hard. So
yeah, for sure.
When you think about, I mean, that you had to have done the math or like walked through that. So like when you're thinking about that question, how do you think about it? It'd be easier, but maybe longer to do 100 million in one market, but easier.
There's a couple of answers to that, I think. One is, yes, it probably take longer. And I will say that to build anything great takes time. I think people are impatient. So, I think it does take time to build anything great. Even us saying we're going in the market, hitting it hard, spend a lot of money, but that's just because we also spent, 15 or 14 years prior to going into Cincinnati, 15 years prior to going to Cincinnati and building infrastructure through call centers, dispatch, all these other things, right? Talk about infrastructure to get a single location center up, right? I think, one is that you do look at market penetration. There's risk with one market, too, right? Of your only one location brand market. When you talk about evaluations or partnerships or other things, there's it's on the table. Like, yes, it's great to have a single location, giant single location, but when PE firms, I guess, or evaluations are looking, they want to look for risk, right? They're also evaluating risk. And if you're in multiple markets, risk is a little less that you prove that you can grow in multiple markets. If something was to go wrong in a market, you still have other markets.
Yeah.
So there's that had come up in conversations and assessments that we've done. And some of it was really trying to be a state. One of our missions was to actually try to own the state, right? So that's part of just the overall goal, was to start to say, how do we own, as we evolved and became more like, well, why shouldn't we try to own the state? Why shouldn't we be a state brand instead of only a Ohio or a Columbus brand, right? Let's become a state brand. So some of that was ambition, and some was getting caught up in the flair of it all, right? Too, a little bit, right? Everybody, again, I mean, to be honest, I hope you guys appreciate this. I think people always think, we all can get caught up in it, right?
Yeah.
We can. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're me, or Tommy, or Chad, or you guys, or whoever, right? Like, everybody can get caught up in it. And I think some guys will admit to that today, that we all kind of were getting caught into it. And even some of the other, bigger players can probably say, of course, you ride the wave. There's a big wave. There's stuff going on. You want to be involved in it. You want to feel like you're achieving something really cool and progressive in your space, and you get on the board. And it came with challenges. I don't regret doing any of it. I would say I would maybe change some of the decisions on some of the things that we may have done when and how. But at the end of the day, they were decisions we made. We live with them. We own them. And we got to figure out how to fight through them. That's what they are, right? And those are, however long it took me to get to where I am today and to work the decisions we made, they're all lessons that I needed to learn and we needed to learn as a business to keep growing our business into the future, right? And that's the only way I can really, look at it. Am I happy about every one of them? No. Do I? But am I excited about the opportunities that are in front of us? Yes.
Yeah.
I do believe that we can fight through and overcome any of the things that we put the right focus and attention into the locations, into the service lines, and into the customer experience and our techs. We will win the battle that we're out to fight. Yeah.
What do you think is next for Eco? Like, when you guys think about your next couple of years, what are the opportunities in front of you?
Well, one thing is right now is right now we're really just trying to settle into what we have: multi-location, multi-service lines, make sure we're selling about 1,000 memberships a month right now.
That's
We
a lot.
got to fulfill membership fulfillments. We need to operate. We need to operate a sound business for our team while still creating excitement and growth, right? But the growth is going to come through the markets that we have today, right now, right? Of course, I've been open about, Cleveland market area is on our radar, and soon Indianapolis, which Chad and I have talked. That Chad's here, he knows that too. So those are on the radar as expansions for us that we would like to, greenfield or acquire, depending. Looking for opportunities to just keep building relationships with people in this space, whether that's to help smaller. I don't know if smaller is the right word, but how about guys that are trying to figure their way or come up or whatever? Because I've been there. I think I reached out to larger companies doing stuff. I remember meeting Dave Geiger. I was like, this guy's the man. Right? I remember figuring out stuff and meeting him as he's growing Horizon. And you know what? He was always so kind to me, right? And generous. I don't really, I think his story of being a plumber, coming up his business is similar to me being a plumber, but also I don't even think it's just that. I think he's just a great guy and a great person that cares about the industry and has always been generous. And I will always just remember anytime I saw him, he always did. If I text him or called him, he'd get back to me. Like, it just was unbelievable. And, I have people like that and many other people. I could go through an array of people. Glenn over at Halo had always been a great, advocate for me. So, I think it's just, can I find a way to help this space in any way? And, some of that may turn into, personal financial benefits, and some of it might just turn into personal reward of helping other people run better, solid businesses for themselves and their families long term. And I think if I can do that, we'll feel really good about life. One of the things I wrote on my definitions of purpose in life was, my business will be in the business of saving the day and protecting the future. I'll be in the business of saving dreams and creating futures for people, right? So I think it's just trying to understand who you are and what you're on the earth to do. And the trades of genuinely saved my life in many ways. Maybe not saved it like I was in some bad place, but it saved it and gave me a place and an opportunity to do something. And I'm grateful for that. And I need to keep that passion going, because if I don't, then it's my time to move on. My time to leave.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
When I think about the sort of the main points of our conversation over the last hour, the big ones I'm gonna grab here are setting a vision, which I know we've seen that too, to a lesser extent, but it is interesting how you put this massive thing out there instead of holding it inside your head, and people do rally behind it, and it attracts the right people, which is really cool. Focus, just plumbing. I would say just plumbing in just one location for a long time.
Very long time.
Yeah. But I think that is huge. I know, like, we're mid-20s and we're flirting with the idea of multi-location, but man, it's a lift. And I really feel like 40 to 50 is the right size, if not bigger. But I'll talk to guys and they're like $2 or $3 million and they're thinking about their next market. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you have like 2 people. Like, what are you talking about?
Because they think that that's what they should do, because they hear stories of people like me or other people or whatever doing all these things. And they're like, well, that's what I should be doing. It's like, what you should be doing is getting the one thing to the completion first, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So strong focus, one market, one trade. I like that a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense. Being ready to change when the facts change. We sort of walked through this lightly, but you said, hey, eventually plumbing slowed down in number of calls, or I don't remember your exact wording. And that's when we started to add another trade and think about new markets, or the other way around, really. So be ready to change when it changes, and continue to push for growth. I mean, those feel like the big things. Did I miss another core lesson in here?
No, I think it's knowing when the time is. Like, to your point, there's like, we knew saturation was starting to come. We owned the one thing. We've earned the right. We felt like at this point, whether it was or wasn't, we felt like we did, because we did the one thing. We saw saturation, then we made that. And another thing was like the electrical. I think once you know some information, you feel really right on it. And your intuition tells you, then just make the decision and do it. Right. Sometimes we get all this information. I've done this numerous times too, is we get this information and then we want to spend too much time around it. We think about it too much. We ask too many people's opinions instead of just saying, my intuition tells me this is what to do. I think we want to be informed from people, but if it's like, this feels right, it's the right thing to do at the right time, then do it. Be sound. Don't be ridiculous on some of the things do, but be sound. And you do have to trust your intuition and your gut a little bit. You do, right? With sound information.
Yeah. I mean, I think my takeaway from this episode specifically was how important building those relationships with vendors in industry is. I mean, it's something I think we know inherently is true, but to push ourselves to actually go out there and talk to people in industry and have those conversations and reach out to your vendors and build those relationships are all extremely important. It sounds like, Aaron, that's something that you have done over and over and over again, and you're continuing to do. I mean, that's why you're here on this podcast for some purpose, and then continuing to build those, I think is something that I knew, but it's I'm going to lean into it. That's something that's very interesting.
I've been very fortunate through this space as we've grown this business, but even then, to have even people that you guys may not know that are on the bracket, I guess, on the bracket of like home service companies that have helped me, that have built great businesses in the past, that I've gone and visited and did stuff by being in networks, by showing up, by reaching out, by being available when they were available, not when I was available. Right, that was the lesson learned too. Is like, if you want to talk to somebody who's ahead of you, you better make yourself available when they're available, not when you want to be available. And I've been very fortunate. I've built a great network of some great friends. I got to meet Tommy years ago. I met Tommy when he's building his business, and he was in his apartment, and he was telling me all these things he's going to do. And I thought I had dreams, and this dude was like going big time on me. And I was like, wow, man, this is amazing. This is who you want to be around. And and I think he saw what I was doing plumbing, and we hit it off very well. And I'm actually after this podcast, I'm taking off, getting on a flight and flying out to Phoenix to go spend some time with him and Bree. And my son goes to college there. So him and Chad and Chris and Ishmael and Tom Howard and all these people. It's like, so, and I think one thing I'll say this, and I'll wrap this up here, is like, you do need to find your network. Yeah. Right. Your point there is like, you do. And I've had people say, people have said, well, I want to be part of your guys' group or whatever. And that's great. I love to meet more people, do stuff. What you should really do is aspire to build a group of people and work with that group of people to lift each other up. And I think having a group of people that I've met in the industry, in that group particularly, and other people that I have met, have all found ways to lift each other up and do that. I think that's the key here, is like, that is so important, is to find that network of communication, be able to put yourself out there, right? I had to put myself out there. Like, here I am with a bankrupt business, trying to grow, trying to move forward, trying to share my experience. It took me forever to put out. One thing I'll say on this too is one thing I really struggled for with the longest time is I'm dyslexic. I grew up dyslexic. You can't become undyslexic. Because I was very so worried that people would know I was dyslexic that I would do everything I could to work around that, until I decided that it didn't matter. I'm putting my whole life out there. I'm putting all the things I have out there, and I'm going to go own them all. And I'm going to create network. I'm going to beat people for the things I have and the things I don't. Everything changed.
This was incredible, Aaron. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story. Appreciate you walking through Eco. And if people want to connect with you or learn more about what you're up to, how do you think they're able to find you?
Well, you can always hit me up on LinkedIn. That's the best place, really. Just Aaron Gaynor, LinkedIn, hit me a message. I think that's how you got in contact with me too, right? I think so, through that. I'm very good about responding. It's easy there, because if I get out the email, it gets lost. Yes, I have an EA these days, but they still get lost and all that. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I can funnel back and get back to people. So that would be the best way to just contact me, is through LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Wonderful, Aaron. Thank you so much.
All right. My pleasure, guys. Thank you. Congrats to all your guys' success.